In every new business you are starting or new product you are looking at introducing or say new project you are looking at undertaking, there are certain challenges you may face in the future. And though it may be impossible to identify what may come say next year, next 2 years, etc., there is a way to mitigate or try and identify the various challenges that may come up in the future, and as a result of that, create contingencies for your business or project. Now, the two we are going to discuss here is the risk assessment. And what the risk assessment does is it helps us to identify, predict, or evaluate the possible challenges that may occur in the future and the possibility of them occurring in the future. Now, this helps us to mitigate against the risks and also create contingencies for things that may occur. Obviously, it's not possible to tell, everything that's going to occur, and things like COVID have taught us that you can't always predict. But what this does is it helps us to hedge against, identify, and more or less create sort of a safety net for things that could go wrong with the project. One major problem or one major risk people talk about obviously is, if I don't meet my target in say 2 3 years, what do I do next? And you'd be surprised what research and conversation with a team, if you do have a team, or just doing a thorough examination, what ideas you could come up with and what contingencies you could discuss and create just by conducting this analysis. It has a soothing effect as a tool, actually. So let's move on to the next scenario. Now let's create a scenario. Say you're a company that is looking to go into manufacture, and government is looking to say ban the sale of a raw material in 4 years or reduce access to it. Then in your analysis, you identify the fact that you may not have access to those raw materials in 4 years as your risk. Then you also identify what the possibility of them stopping the sale of that raw material totally, or say reducing access to it, is. Now, if they say they are stopping the sale of the raw material, for example, then you'd have to ask yourself, so where am I going to get the substitutes from? But say they say we are reducing access to those raw materials. Now you have to ask yourself, am I willing to pay the extra cost involved for producing this product? Is it worth it? Then you also have to take a look at the impact of you, say, purchasing the product at that price, as mentioned earlier. Is it worth it, or is the substitute worth it? Is it easily accessible? Is it affordable? And say if I'm to increase prices, what effect would that have on my consumers in general? Then you also have to take a look at what actions you can take to reduce the impact or probability of the reduction in the sale of the raw material, the total eradication or sale of the raw material. What impact would it have on your company in general or on the product you are producing? So if you are looking at the company in general, then you'd probably have to look at other ways of generating revenue by the time the 4 years is up. So that's just a general overview of how or what you could go through during this evaluation. Another example of conducting this assessment is what I believe is the basis and what should be done by almost every company or new startup is taking a look at, say, companies that introduced a similar product within a similar environment, and there are different phases and what they went through in those different phases, and try to examine and evaluate how that could play into the challenges you as a company could face within the similar phases that they went through. Like with most tools we talk about, this is not a one-time thing. It involves constant observation and evaluation and upgrading of information, gathering details, etc. Over a period of time. You never really stop actually for sustainability purposes, and it has to be inculcated into the culture of the company. A culture whereby you garner information from the outside world and continuously build on it to create sustainability and update the information you have.